Assistant Vice President here at Automation Alley, and I am pleased to be joined today by Joseph Van Harken, co-founder and chief strategy officer of 3rd Coast Digital Solutions. So, Joe, before we do anything, can I ask you about the name 3rd Coast? Do you mind?
Sure. Um, yeah, that's a great question. We came up with the name. It's a few different meanings actually. One represents the geographical location of our main headquarters here on the lakeshore. We're out in West Michigan, headquartered in Grand Haven. But it's also a metaphoric leftover from my days back in Manhattan, when we used to refer to the Midwest here as the flyover states, and it was all about the East Coast or the West Coast only. I wanted to let folks know that there's actually another coast out here. It's the 3rd Coast, and it offers an alternative perspective on approaching problem solving and getting things done. And now that I'm out here in the Midwest as a proud Midwester, I'd like to represent the 3rd Coast.
I threw that at you because I just noticed it and thought it was a really cool name.
Yep.
So let me just tell you for a second. So Joseph is an award-winning journalist, producer, and tech entrepreneur and strategy consultant. He's especially skilled in finding unique and creative ways to solve problems through technology for clients. He's also worked with Discovery and the History Channel and currently shares time between New York and Michigan. And I love that we have somebody with this kind of background in our state representing some of the issues we face here. So welcome. So, COVID has really accelerated the need for remote learning in both corporate and academic settings. We're just seeing it over and over, and we know that, it's been pushed to the brink more recently. Putting the right pieces in place for successful transition is really creates some uncertainty and anxiety as people figure out how to do that. So tell me a little bit about your company's concept in the flipped classroom.
Sure. Just quickly, where our background comes from is a focus in originally video production, marketing, and then we got into enterprise and corporate level training back in the noughts of the 2000s, and then into the teens of the 2000s, with the internet gaining such prominence, especially in the workplace.
There are downsides to that 3rd Coast in Michigan. You can have transmission
started
problems.
to explore different applications. From there, about 2015, that's when we first saw XR kind of creeping back into the situation. AR and VR have been around for a while, as you know, but really it was about the 2015 timeframe when the tech started to really prove itself out that it was scalable. So we really wanted to look in, okay, where are our best ways that we can apply? We wanted to look beyond the new shiny tool, new shiny object side of it, and really look for practical applications, especially ones that can create very near-term value, right? So, we established a separate R&D department to really focus on what does that look like, and what are some practical, tactical applications for AR, VR that we could start to implement and work with our clients on exploring. So out of that, as you know, there's many different ways to approach it, but because our main focus is creating that near term and then obviously long term value, what does that look like? How can we best approach that? So we look back at one of our approaches to the enterprise learning transition, digitization of that, and realize that the flipped classroom concepts really apply in many situations. And really what that approach is looking at existing programs that rely on in-person classroom settings or in-person one-to-one training situations, and dissecting them, really understanding what those core learning objectives are, understand how those are achieved in that in-person or one-on-one training in classroom situations and see what digital tools are out there that can apply to help separate that, bring some of it online. Folks may have heard different concepts that are woven into it. Similar phrases might be blended classroom, where some of the content is online. A lot of it in this situation like this, webinars, presented via webinars or upfront videos. So the idea is by the time that you do gather in person, there's a certain baseline knowledge, and you can really make that in-person training much more efficient, right? So with COVID hitting, obviously there's a lot of folks that have been interested in Industry 4.0 and digital transformation. But what we're finding is that when COVID hit, that really put the pedal to the metal on, okay, we need to get these initiatives up and running. How can we do this? How can we do this quickly? So, I hate to see, this terrible situation that's befallen us globally through the pandemic. I hate to see a positive in it, but from our perspective, it's been a little bit of a boom time, just because now all of a sudden, there's a lot of folks that need solutions now and need to go now. So we're finding that, integrating some of these approaches is helping kind of get folks closer to the starting point, and we can, get up and running pretty quickly with integrating a lot of digital tools.
Really interesting. We talked not long ago with the chancellor of a college in Michigan who told me that when they did an evaluation, I think in September of last year, of their 1,600 courses, less than 20% could be online. 10 days after the quarantine shut down, 1,600 courses were online. And that part of that is the mindset. Now, I'm sure that they're not flawless, and I'm sure they'll get improved over time. But the fact that when forced, to your point, nobody wants this to be the reason we're forced. But when forced into a change, people are a little more willing to see things differently from how they've seen them for a very long time. I think we're seeing that in high school classrooms and elementary school classrooms now. We'll continue to see it over the next year. It will unfold in different ways. So which technology tools are you using? You're using AR, VR. What else are you using?
Sure. A lot of internet based applications, video. We stress video a lot. So a lot of mobile applications, video applications, but everything that's pretty much cloud based or online. And it can range from LMS situations if it's a pure training program, and integrating those video aspects to it in a much more immersive way, right? The key to learning is being having the learner feel immersed in the content to really understand it. So when we get inside and look, and when I say we use video as part of the experiences, we go beyond just the next button style training that we call it. It's not read something, then click next, then watch a video, and then click next, and then instead we using HTML5 and immersive aspects of interactive video, we really create a situation where the learner is immersed in part of the scenario, part of the story. So then we can stop and freeze along the way and make it more of a choose your own adventure style, where they're making decisions. Those decisions affect the outcome of the storyline or the scenario that's happening in the training. So Netflix is actually starting to integrate some of this style into their programming as well. We were about 5 years ahead of that curve, but where we have seen it implemented, the surveys coming back from employees, about the training are more like, hey, when's the next training coming out? When's the next episode? Which you never see in training, right? Training is the last thing anybody wants to do. It's just like, I got to do this training to be able to do my job, kind of thing. We really want to approach it where we offer training situations that are not only fun and easy to consume to get that knowledge across, but also something that helps performance. And again, when we're applying in manufacturing situations, for example, it's all about productivity, right? And getting cases out the door, if I can quote one of our clients. Is as long as what we're doing is cool and fun, engaging, but doesn't stop there, actually leads to better production, then I think we have a winning situation there.
That's really fast. I don't, this is not supposed to be like gotcha journalism, but I sort of want to ask you after this if you'll do something interesting for us that we can demo, because I think Automation Alley could be a great platform for a demo of how that works. And I just need to think of what content I would want you to do with me. So it's a side issue, but I think that it's really exciting to find new ways to learn, because we're all learning. I have found myself incredibly susceptible to basic gaming ideas that I never thought I was susceptible to. I kind of laugh about the fact that, and I think other people here right now, I'm like 348 days into Duolingo. It's not a big deal, but I like my daily reward. And I will not break that streak because it started. I feel like it's meaningful. And that's one of the things that happens when you get some kind of really, valuable online training. You want to continue.
No, absolutely. I think what you're hitting on too is a pretty important point, given the what we always define as our audience, right? That's one of our first questions out of the gates when we're in our discovery meetings about a flipped classroom situation with one of our potential clients is, okay, who's the main audience here, right? Oftentimes it's a new workforce or an emerging workforce. And you think about it, this new generation that's coming through is has grown up with the internet, has grown up with mobile devices, has grown up with gamification in everything we touch, right? There's always a reward for anything that goes on. So part of the concept is flipping that system a little bit and creating more incentive-based learning paths, right? Where every time you can be achieving something, unlocking something, leveling up, if you will. So we don't really shy away from that aspect of it and try and integrate those approaches into it. So again, it's more familiar for that learner when they pick it up. It's okay, yeah, this is I like this, I can get this, right? I mean, one of our a big story I like to share is we're going through a process right now where we're taking entire user manuals and SOPs and digitizing those and then creating a pre-configured HoloLens situation that is how to set up and run and maintain a giant machine, right? So currently that the support for that machine is delivered with a forklift pallet that drops a stack of user manuals and papers, and the client expresses that that ends up collecting dust in the corner, right? And what good is that? And currently their processes or their programs involve when they deliver the machine, they deliver some of their own resources as well for a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks to stay on there through the onboarding session, work side by side, hand in hand with their clients. So when we're thinking of value and we're looking at ways that we can increase value, create ROI, that right there, targets us towards, okay, if we can minimize how much time that they need to send somebody on site for that hands-on training and take 3 weeks and shrink that down to 3 days or 1 week, then obviously that creates some value right there. But then when we go beyond that and look at, okay, who's the audience that they are training? Are they going to go to the corner on the pallet and pick up a user manual and thumb through it and find the index and try and see something? Or are they going to be more apt, more excited to put on a HoloLens and click around and find, do a search. I want to find this process, and that comes up. It's rife with 3D animated CAD models that show the innards of the machine, or a video pops up that has their expert who built the machine telling you how it works, and that's referenceable over and over again. Right, there's instant value on both learner retention as well as the actual training that the company. It's I'm sure the audience here has budget lines that they've spent on creating print user manuals that just collect dust, right? Now that money is actually going to a product that will be used over and over again and can continue to improve. That's the other thing about digital delivery, that it opens up a new layer of a feedback loop, right? For your audience, for your clients as well. Then it's not just the hard copy dead end. Now, if there's different ways that you can continue to improve, and you can create different communities and networks around just the use of your products, and it's all about getting better, right? So how do we get that feedback loop closed, and then closer to creating situations where we can take action on those items coming back through.
So clearly everything you do is customized. This is a very customized, not a template thing. Can you tell me a little bit about some of your current clients and how they're using virtual learning and how it's made a difference for them?
Sure. Absolutely. So yeah, there's a few different situations. For example, early on in COVID, I think we spoke about this earlier. One of our clients, a big furniture manufacturer out here in West Michigan, they'd been on the same master apprentice style training since World War II. It's a method that the Army put out back then and was adopted by many enterprise outfits, and it's been fine. It's been working great since then. And this is on their factory floor. If there's a new worker, then the expert that knows how to do that job trains them. They shadow while they're being trained, and then they switch it, and then the worker does it, and the expert shadows until they get the stamp of approval, and then they're off on their own, right? And that could take days, weeks, however long. This is one of those situations where I mentioned that with Industry 4.0, it's not really new, right? Digital transformation that's been around for a while, and there's been a lot of talk about it, and there's been baby steps towards integrating this and really being cautious. But this is a great example of where COVID now, with the regulations, the social distancing, being 6 feet apart, how can we approach this, right? Is it putting big plexiglass between my expert and my apprentice? Sure, you can try that. That can work. Or are there other tools that we can look towards? So creating a video that the expert voices, and the way we approach it is using first person video instead of a third person video, because that I won't get too in the weeds of the learning processes or the academics behind it, but what the first person point of view really does is it eliminates a need for the viewer to flip in their own head the process that's happening, and really lets them see it from that as if I'm doing it kind of thing, almost the learning while doing it, right? Even though you're still passively watching a video. So that just adds a little bit right there. But then that video asset lives indefinitely and can be accessed whenever. So the expert doesn't have to be scheduled, taken away from his or her production job. What they're doing can stay being productive while the learner is getting some of that baseline information that they can start getting up and running with. Beyond that, it creates more of a situation where that asset can be available for many different processes, right? So it's good for cross-pollination as well. That worker we're finding this a lot too, that there's less specialization in actual job roles, and folks are looking more for the ability to be nimble, where you have one person trained along many lines, right? So sometimes even if you got that in-person training 6 months ago, right, you may have forgotten some things. So this type of video asset lends nicely to getting refresher courses, or being able to, quickly go to that line and get an in the moment refresher. We call it just in time training, sort of thing, right? Now, do we want to have that person in a separate classroom on a desktop computer watching that and then going out? Not necessarily. So that's where you bring in some of the AR VR tools, right? So whether it's a wearable, HoloLens, a RealWear, or now Magic Leap is getting into the enterprise game, focusing more on that. And even consumer devices have announced that 2021, 2022, they'll be coming out with glasses. So wearables will be a big part of the future, the near-term future coming up, and kind of integrated, just like AirPods, right? Everybody has AirPods now, and Siri voice technology, or any of those. The next through will be wearables, which really opens up a whole different layer of how we interact with our digital space, right? It's not just the 2D platforms anymore that we have to go someplace or have a device that creates this entry into this digital world, but it'll be ever present all around us, right? So we can bring in video that is relative and associate that video, or like I mentioned before, a 3D object that's animated, something that gives you more insight into the physical world, can be present whenever, however, and accessed, in the moment when somebody's right there, whether it be through a wearable or through an iPad situation. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, so when you see this transformation right now, is this being driven? We know that COVID was certainly a huge driver of this, rapid, at least of the cadence of change. But are the OEMs and the tier ones pushing, to use the Michigan terminology, OEMs, tier ones pushing this downstream and mandating it? Are people automatically seeking it? What is the motivator that you see most commonly?
Sure, it's kind of going both ways. So another client I mentioned, it's the one with the palette, right? The user palette. They are a supplier for one of the big three auto manufacturers, and this was the first year that they've seen that part of their delivery requirements for support material is in digital. A request for digital video. So in this situation, it's coming down. It's a request that they need to fulfill. However, where they're smart in terms of their vision is they want to look at that and say, okay, I can approach this as this is something I have to do, or this is early enough in the transformation that if I do this right, I have the opportunity here to set the standard as to what this delivery is going to be, and potential to open up a new revenue stream, right? We're always talking value and looking at different ways to increase productivity and increase bottom line based on that. But what this approach also doesn't, especially in the time we're in right now, where it's still a little bit of the Wild West, there's opportunity there to really define what your own future is going to be and create new revenue streams that you wouldn't have thought have existed in the past, right? So the approach we're kind of working with them through is, one, fulfilling that request, because if one of the big three makes it a mandate now, it's not it's short to follow that this will start to become mandated and become the norm in the future, right? So how do you take that and then create a tiered system where there's a base fulfillment, but then there's a premium level, and then a premium plus level that start to bring in some of that the SaaS business modeling to it, right? Where it can be more of a subscription based, with you get updates on the manuals as they get updated, and it's real time. You get user tracking to see some analytics behind it. How are your users using it? You can turn it on and off, so you can charge against this kind of thing. So there's different ways that you can really, in a very easy way, with software that's out there and available now, plug this in without completely having to transform your business or your approach.
Thank you. So for the most part, do you find that people on the shop floor, I'm going to pivot back to the individual user, are they transitioning well to the new technology? Do people like this? And is there a demographic that likes it more? What are you seeing as success?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think, it gives somebody an iPad or a HoloLens, and they're way more excited to pick that up and than thumb through some big old SOP, right? Um, so just in that hits all age ranges. You would think that the that the older generation might not be so adapt to that, but I mean, my mom has a Facebook portal, and she would much rather get online and do a video conference like this than write us a letter, or something like that, right?
Mhm.
So and the other thing we find is natural curiosity with the employee. It's much more convenient. It matches more of their lifestyle. So having a new device and then trying to figure out and navigate through it themselves is not an issue. So I mean, we always put time into creating onboarding for the training, but that's often skipped, right? People just want to dive in and start consuming, get to the knowledge that I need. I mean, when you ask somebody right now, I mean, hey, you got to change. There's a leak in your kitchen sink, right? How are you going to fix it? Are they going to get the sink manufacturer's manual and bust that out, or are they going to hop on YouTube and find a link that says how to change your pipes, right? They're going to do that. So we're kind of springboarding off of that common behavior and just becoming self-effacing with this is how people behave now, right? Across generations, and this is the best way that they want to learn given what's available technology wise, right? So we integrate that with it and say this is how people want to learn. Let's deliver it best for them.
And I like that it's coming from the manufacturer because, when your Whirlpool dishwasher's acting up and you Google, or you go to YouTube, you might end up with some appliance guy giving you tips, which might be better, but it would be kind of nice to, I don't always think of it and dig in, you check the URL, see what you're getting to find out if it's the Whirlpool response, because they really should know it best, but they don't all have it done in a really slick way. That's what YouTubers have taken that initiative to make great video content.
No,
Higher quality content sells or gets picked up.
absolutely. You bring up a great point because right now, when you're creating paper user manuals, or even if they're digitally delivered through PDF or whatever, right? Your main expert, if you're an OEM, your main expert in that process isn't sitting with your corporate training writing department, sitting next to him or her, writing that content with them, right? But what you're able to do with video is have the expert be the voice, be that expert, right? And so you're going beyond what you would normally get in a standard user manual. You're getting the nuances of how the machine actually works, right? So when you take out this part, it's not just take out the part, show that, and there's a couple lines of text. It's take out the part, but put your hand underneath, because when you break the magnetic seal, it's going to be heavy. You don't want to drop it. That would be bad, right? You get that voice, you get those nuances, and that's really where the nuggets of gold come in from the learning perspective, right? Because then your first time user sees that, understands the nuances of it, and then when he or she goes to perform that task, they're not just pulling it out, dropping it, and ruining $1 million right there, right? They have their hand underneath. They can safely do it the way that it's supposed to be done. Both seeing it done and then also hearing those nuances in approaches and ways to actually execute in the best way is invaluable, really.
I've got 3 questions I really want to ask before we wrap up. I know we're getting this. So tell me about any emerging technologies you see related to virtual training that you think are most exciting or have the greatest potential impact on manufacturing.
Really, to be honest, I got to point towards AR and how that's really going to start to integrate and revolutionize the way we all work. I mean, we've heard, we've all probably experienced the potential for AR in terms of visualization, right? Being able to see things that aren't there. It's a great tool for sales folks that are on the road, might not be able to bring the big model with them. They can now, share something and visualize it and have it there, point through it. But really, again, what we try and do is go beyond that. How can it be integrated into actual work situations? So we're in situations where we're using AR as a data input tool, right? I think I alluded earlier to this digital layer that's happening all around us. It's also known as 3D computing or spatial computing, right? For the past 2,000 plus years, we've been exchanging information via 2D interfaces, right? Going back to the stone tablets, right, of the Ten Commandments all the way through iPads of today. But what AR does is it really opens up that 3D or that spatial computing layer. So usability is a key thing to consider right now. How is it best to use this information and prepare it in a way that's easily consumable? So when all of your workers have wearable devices on, what is that hidden layer, hidden universe that exists that has the tools they need to allow them to do their jobs better, faster? That's where I see the biggest potential in these new technologies, is really focusing on usability, which we're doing now. We've launched an innovation lab with Kendall College of Art and Design out here on the west part of Ferris State University. And I always get innovation lab. That sounds more like an engineering or a computer science thing. We're like, why are you going with a design school? Well, it's to solve this creeping problem right now that I see. I mean, the technology and the engineering is moving so fast, as I mentioned earlier, that it's scalable, it's usable, it's stable right now. The biggest question is how can we make it most usable, right? So with what AR to offer in the near term, we need to solve that problem really quickly. Let's make it very usable so anybody approaching this can get the value that unpack the value that's kind of waiting. It's like a Pandora's box.
So, I want to thank you. I'm going to do a couple of things. I want to thank you for being here. I want to ask you to let people know how they can learn more about what you're doing. And then would you also, send me a demo that I can put up on our video. I'd like to attach a demo to this when we send it out, so we have something to show people a little bit about. Since it's a very visual concept we're talking about, I'd like to see something you'd like to share with us. So if people want to reach you, how do they get to you?
Sure. Our website's great, or you can email me directly, joseph@thirdcoast.com. And that's a Third Coast with a number 3, going for that gamer type of thing. Th3RD.com, JOSEPH at. Yep, our website's the same. All the social media, all of that stuff, you can find us. And then I'd definitely love to share. Let me find something that is public. A lot of our situations are NDA, as you know.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Where it's best, if folks are really curious about it, I agree 100%. You can kind of get the concept of it, but you don't really get it until you learn it, feel it, hold it, do it. So we're working on a few, I know it kind of goes against it, but physical locations where we can have some demos set up and things like that, and we can do some live streams from it. The reason
that's exactly the reason I asked this. I had known one of the companies we work with that does some AR/VR work. I had known that company for 5 years, and it were interesting. And I saw them on computers. I saw them show me. I saw demos on the computer. I was in the Hanover Trade Show and saw them physically there, and I understood for the first time the breadth of that product. And I don't think we can always convey the breadth of that product, even in an interview with you and me. It needs to be, at the very least, you need to visually, we're back to, whether or not we can do things virtually, you need to virtually show what it looks like physically. And if we can demonstrate that, it can help people understand it. So.
No, absolutely. We a lot of those are best done via one-on-one streams like this. We have figured out a way where we could, using an iPad, stream that as a screen and still show a tangible, show a model tracking scenario, for example, where we lock a CAD onto a physical part and then go through a visual inspection process. That can be demoed through an interface like this. That even helps the light bulbs go off right at that point. So we can use digital to overcome these physical barriers as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much again. Thank you, Joseph, for your time. 3rd Coast Media. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.